I never thought I'd watch flashing police lights in front of the HOA president's house and feel almost giddy, and then half a heartbeat later, feel sick to my stomach. That's not how any neighborhood story is supposed to go, right? You think of mailboxes and lawn chairs, maybe a passive-aggressive note tucked under a doormat, not handcuffs and someone's daughter in the back of a squad car. But that afternoon changed the whole rhythm of our little street. We live in that weirdly identical suburb where every yard looks like it had the same interior decorator mulch and geometric perfection flags folded like they're posing for an exam, and lawns shaved to the exact millimeter. It's peaceful if you only look at it. But if you live under a strict HOA, peace is a stack of fines, an inbox full of friendly reminders, and a person who reads the bylaws like scripture. Our HOA president, Karen, she embodied that energy. Nice at parties, ruthless in enforcement. She could turn a holiday wreath into a legal problem if she wanted to. I should say up front, I'm not the kind of guy who keeps trouble in a trophy case. I own an ATV, small registered covered quiet, the kind of machine you use for weekend trails and hauling mulch when spring hits. Legal. Responsible. In my driveway beside my garage where it's always been. But Karen had a way of seeing things as threats to curb appeal. She'd left notes on people's doors about lawn height, sent emails about the visual integrity of the neighborhood, and once actually measured someone's grass with a ruler, I swear to you, because it was a hair over the rule. So yeah, she noticed my ATV. At first it was little things, a concerned email, a polite phone call, a suggestion about the cover being more tasteful. I reminded her gently that the HOA's rules allowed covered recreational vehicles if they were stored and not used on the street. She didn't like being corrected. After that, the tone shifted. It wasn't just rules anymore. It felt personal, like someone took offense at my existence on their perfectly curated stage. Then came the Saturday that made everything real. I'd been out running errands, nothing fancy, grocery store, the hardware place, the kind of boring adult tour where you judge other people's carts. When I pulled up, the cover that always sat neat and tight over the ATV was gone. At first I thought I'd left it flapping in the wind, but the space where the ATV usually lived was empty. My stomach dropped. There's a weird, sharp silence that fills you when something that anchors you is gone, like a missing tooth when you talk. My neighbor texted before I could gather the sentence. "Isn't that your ATV? Emily's on it, tearing up the cul-de-sac." Emily, Karen's 19-year-old daughter, was doing donuts in the road like she owned the place, laughing like the world was a music video, and she had the soundtrack. Not only was she on it, she'd started it up, revved it, and was showing off. I watched from the curb while she peeled back into her driveway, a perfect picture of teenage entitlement. I walked up slow because screaming doesn't look good on anyone, and because I'd already tried calm. I said, "That's my ATV. Why do you have it?" She gave me that look. You know, the one like I'd interrupted her day of leading a revolution. "Oh, this." "It was just sitting there," she said. Then she added almost offhand, "My mom says it's an eyesore," as if possession by opinion somehow makes property public. I told her she didn't have permission. She laughed. Loud, casual, like the sort of laugh that expects people to fall in line. Then she said with zero irony, "My mom runs this neighborhood." That one line, like a crown, told me exactly what I was up against. She genuinely believed titles conferred immunity. She believed words on a printed page could rewrite state law. I called the police. It felt surreal doing it, like pressing a button in a story I'd watched 100 times in other people's lives. Within minutes, Karen exploded out of her house voice, loud enough to wake the mulch. "How dare you escalate this?" she yelled. "This is a neighborhood issue." I told her calmly again that her daughter had taken my registered vehicle without permission. She tried to spin it, misunderstanding borrowing could have been worse. The neighbor who'd seen Emily take the cover off the ATV said nothing. At first he just pointed to his door where his security camera hung like a watchful eye. When the officer showed up, he cut through the noise the way a flashlight cuts through fog. He asked Emily if she had permission. She hesitated, looked at her mom, looked back at him like she was checking the room for audience applause. Karen tried to interrupt, tried to insist they'd handle it inside the HOA. The officer didn't even blink. He told her straight, HOA rules don't override state law. Taking someone's motorized vehicle without permission is theft or unauthorized use, end of story. You can hear the finality in a cop's voice. It sits in the air like a gavel. And here's the twist. The neighbor across the street had already pulled his phone up. His camera had caught Emily and a friend walking across my lawn, removing the cover and pushing the ATV down the driveway. It showed them starting it up, grinning like it was the best prank ever. That footage changed the mood in a heartbeat, from self-assured to suddenly exposed. Karen went from warrior queen to frantic mother in 2 seconds flat. She started flinging names around people she knew at City Hall, the lawyers she'd consulted, threats about lawsuits and reputations. But threats sound thinner when a video shows you doing the thing you're denying. Watching Emily get handcuffed was a strange mixture of emotions. Part relief. Yes, justice, finally, part sadness because she looked terrified and small in the back of that squad car. The same girl who'd sneered my mom runs this neighborhood was now silent, eyes fixed on a spot in the distance. The officer sat back in the car radio murmuring, and the lights reflected off the glossy, perfectly trimmed grass. It was cinematic in a way that made me nauseous. News travels fast in places like ours. Within days, the silky calm of the street unspooled. Neighbors who'd been too scared to speak up started sharing stories, petty fines handed out without paperwork, enforcement that hit some families and not others, intimidation delivered with a smile. There's a peculiar courage that comes from seeing a public figure's veil lifted. Once people know the truth, once they've seen that the person who seemed untouchable is human and fallible, fear stops working the way it did. Karen resigned as HOA president a few weeks later. It wasn't dramatic, no public burning of bylaws or crowning a new queen. It was a note, a signature, a paper that said quietly, "I step down." After that, a small coalition of neighbors pushed for an audit of the fines and enforcement actions she'd overseen. Paperwork surfaced. Irregularities popped up. The community demanded transparency, and perhaps for the first time in a long time, got it. As for Emily, she faced charges for unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, fines, community service, the kind of record that doesn't feel heavy until you realize it's a shadow you carry into job applications and background checks. All over a joyride that started as entitlement and ended in embarrassment. I don't tell this to celebrate humiliation. That would be petty. I tell it because it's instructive. If you let someone believe their title is a shield, you teach them to test boundaries, and often the tests get bolder. When people believe rules don't apply to them, consequences become a foreign language. I probably would have let Emily take the ATV if she had asked supervised helmet on parade around the block like a normal, responsible human. That would have been fine. But entitlement shifts the script. It makes a person think they deserve shortcuts and special treatment. And entitlement untreated breeds mistakes. What surprised me most wasn't the theft or the arrest. It was the quiet ways power operates, the filtered emails, the way fines were used like a weapon, the small humiliations that add up. People had been living with that for years. They complained privately, then took back their words when they saw the president smile. That silence is what keeps systems like that alive. A camera and a cop do a lot, but the real change came when neighbors stopped being silent witnesses. There's a moral tucked into the middle of the mess, and I didn't see it right away. It's not dramatic, it's not preachy. It's a small, steady truth. Respect is a two-way street. Titles and rules and bylaws don't create respect. Actions do. You show respect by following the same rules you expect others to follow. You hold people accountable not because you want to punish them, but because you want a fair system, one where covering your ATV doesn't make you a criminal, and where being the president of an association doesn't give you a hall pass to bend the world. After the dust settled, our neighborhood felt different. Not because there were fewer rules, there are still plenty, but because people understood that those rules could be questioned and that no one was infallible. I felt validated. That's a strange word for it. I didn't want revenge. I wanted my property respected and a reminder that the law is the law. It's a small dignity, but it matters. There are tiny cinematic moments I can't get out of my head, the way Emily's laugh cut through the cul-de-sac, the desperate sway in Karen's voice when she realized footage existed, the neighbor across the street holding up his phone like a witness in a courtroom. Sound matters in stories like this. The squeal of rubber on asphalt, the officer's radio chirping the hush that fell after the squad car drove away. Those details are what make this feel real, not some abstract lesson. So here's the question I'm leaving you with, and I mean this as straight talk. When someone in your life or neighborhood wields authority like a club, Do you sit and take it, or do you stand up and risk making things worse? Because standing up is messy, and sometimes you get handcuffs on your street, metaphorically or actually. But sometimes it's the only thing that cracks the door open. I want to hear what you think. Have you ever seen someone act like they were untouchable? Did you call the police, post a camera, write a letter, or did you stay quiet? Tell me the worst power move you've seen and whether you think justice caught up with it. Drop your story in the comments. Be honest, be specific, and yes, be dramatic if you have to. I read them all, and if there's one thing this whole mess taught me, it's that the quiet ones have a lot to say once they stop being afraid.